Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome at yet another episode of our YouTube streaming with ambassadors. This time, our guest is the most, or to me, most renowned OM System ambassador, and this is Petr Bambousek. Peter, welcome in the studio and hi.
Hello, Thomas. Hello. Hello to all of you.
Peter, it has been some time since we did together an English-speaking YouTube, and I hope, as it was very successful from what I have seen, I hope this time is going to be even more successful because you are bringing lots of new images, and this time from which place?
Is it a Pantanal from Brazil? And I think it's first time I'm speaking widely about the Pantanal, so I think it will be inspirational for a lot of people.
Okay, great, amazing. Peter, I'm sorry, but I just need to do something before I let you talk about your amazing images, about your experience with the equipment. I would like to invite all of you, not just to today's stream, which you are watching right now, but to the whole week, because today we are starting OM System Week, which is not going to be only presentations, online streams, Zoom lessons, lectures, and so on, but it's also something about, let's say, the products. And the positive feature, as I see it, is that we are actually having 10 or 11 days of amazing offers. And the amazing offers you can find obviously on our websites. In Europe, obviously, it's the cashback type. And let me just very quickly, very briefly show you where to find it. If you check our website, then basically this is the UK version, of the site. Obviously, you will hit this creativity is in our nature, which is like the motto of this OM System Week. And just down below, you will see these amazing cashbacks, starting from, for example, 500 pounds cashback on the amazing 150-600mm lens. You have tried this lens, Peter, by the way, didn't you, in the past?
Yes, I did. I had the opportunity to have a pre-launch version, so I spent with it maybe 2 months. And it's pretty good. I think if I didn't have 150-400, this will be my choice for sure.
Yeah, which is actually this one, the 150-400, which we are mentioning. I know it's your favorite lens, it's the top lens you have. And there is also a cashback on this one, which is 450 pounds or euro. You'll find it all around Europe, obviously. Then 100, 400 cashback again. I mean, to me, these are all amazing cashbacks. So if you are wondering whether you should buy or should not buy any of these lenses or equipment, just please listen to, not to what we are telling you about the equipment, but to Peter's experience with the equipment and to his images, amazing images, which he has actually shot in the past and is still shooting with some of these lenses, basically. Obviously, you are not using all of these lenses because you are dedicated mostly to wildlife and to birding photography. But as far as I know, and maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, maybe we will see also some kind of close-up images, not macro, but close-up, some details today?
Yes, there are some wide-angle shots as well, and I will discuss my my equipment very soon, so we will see what's in my backpack.
Oh, great. I didn't know that. so sorry for making this confusion. Okay, let's see. So I will stop this sharing. So you will all know at the moment right now where to find it. It's OM System. Obviously, it's not only about Europe. If you are from US or from Australia, US is running lots of amazing deals as well as Australia. They've got this OM System promotion as well. So you will find it all around the world, basically, where OM System is present and sells equipment. One more thing which I wanted to show you, and that is Peter's webpage, which is sulasula.com. I'll just put the banner down here so that you know how to type it. So it's www.sulasula.com. This is Peter's webpage. It's not only in Czech, because we are both from Czech Republic, so we natively speak Czech language. So excuse our bad English, but hopefully you will understand. But you can also find many of the articles in English, which is actually this part, which I'm scrolling down right now. And Peter has created one of the most amazing wildlife PDF which is, what is it, like 90 or 100 pages already, Peter?
It's over 100 pages. It was almost 100 before update, and after OM1 Mark II was released, I did update, so it's over 100 pages at this moment.
Okay, amazing. So it's so many pages dedicated to how to set up your OM1 and OM1 Mark II camera specifically for wildlife and obviously birding type of photography. Amazing stuff. And I can also see that you are you are doing a Pantanal 2025 trip, as far as I'm right here. So basically, if you want to join Peter on his expedition and to get the first-hand information and experience and tips and tricks from Peter, you can very easily join Peter at his Pantanal 2025 photographing trip. When exactly does it happen, Peter? And how many people can join?
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky because it's in May next year, May 25. And it's already almost fully booked. So there is only one space available at this moment. And first serve, first come. So if you will be inspired, if you want to follow me, I'd be my big pleasure to have you on board and show you the amazing place personally. Because now, after a few seconds, you will start to see my presentation and my experiences from the place. But of course, if you live the experience by yourself, it's much more powerful for your future and for your let's say improvements of photography and creating nice stuff. And you will see. I don't want to say much before I show you my presentation.
Sure, it's a pity I didn't know there was only one place left, because otherwise I wouldn't advertise. But so probably you will have to make yet another trip for all the people that are going to join you or that will want to join you. Anyhow, Peter, okay, let's stop my marketing stuff, and I will switch to your presentation, if I may. And please don't hesitate to tell us any kind of tips and tricks about not only your images, how to do the images, how to set up the equipment, but also about how you actually shoot the wildlife once you are there. So your experiences from the place itself, because this is, I think, one of the part that many photographers don't talk about. They only talk about technical stuff, equipment, but don't tend to share the, let's say, the backstage information, which is also very important.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you to all of you watching this presentation. Just few words about me. If you see my presentation for first time, it's good to say who I am. I've been wildlife photographer for more than 20 years, maybe 25 years already, and I'm amazed by biodiversity of nature from all kind of stuff. I love insects, birds, lizards, snakes, anything. And I try to share my passion through the photography. So at this moment, I'm an OM System ambassador, and it's a really pleasure. This is picture from my last trip this year to Pantanal, and as you can notice, all 4 persons on the boat are equipped by the same equipment from OM System. So sometimes it's very nice to see that the OM System is spread among the wildlife photographers. And I think that these trips are amazing place to share settings and so on. So a few words about my equipment. This is my current, I think, fully equipment, what I use. I'm using 2 OM1 Mark II bodies and wide selection of lenses. It was mentioned that I photograph all the stuff from macro to elephants. So the most used lens for wildlife, of course, is the white one. It's the 150-400 millimeters. It's my very favorite one. But I also have a wide range of wide angle lenses. I have 3 or 4 lenses. I have 2 macro lenses. And I also use 40-150 for something like biotope pictures. I also work with intensively with flashes, not much during the daytime, but at the nighttime, it's my major lighting technique. So I have a good selection of flashes. And for some backstage and for some reason, I also have a GoPro small camera, which helps me to make some videos and so on.
Mhm. Peter, sorry, before you go ahead, can you please go one slide back?
Sure.
Because I don't see the 4150 2.8, which I thought you had, but now you are using 4150 40, right?
Yeah,
Can
that's
you
true.
can you just tell why have you swapped from the 2.8 version to the 40 version?
Yeah. Time to time, I do a revision of my photography style, photography equipment, and I'm really working with filters in Lightroom. If I consider I need or want new lens, or I don't use the lens as much as I wish before, so I'm looking in the filters, and it helps a lot. So if I filter in Lightroom what I'm photographing with equipment, I filtered, by the way, also 4150 lens 2.8, which is very great lens. It's one of the most sharp lens on the market, especially in this range, M43. And I noticed that I use this lens mostly for pictures including the part of nature. The animal is small part of the picture, and I frame it with the trees and background and the mountains or whatever. And I notice I almost never use 2.8 aperture. I usually use 5.6 aperture for this kind of pictures, or 4 or something. And by buying a new lens, the white one, 150 400, I have had to deal with the space in my backpack because I love to use a lot of lenses, but also I have to wear them on my shoulders. So I was thinking, if I will sell 2.8 lens, what I will miss? And I found that I will miss just maybe 10% of pictures, but 90% is covered by this smaller version. So it helps me to keep the angle and keep it much more lighter in my backpack. That's the main reason. And by the way, the lens, the small one, is very sharp as well. So I don't lose the image quality, but I only lose the weight.
Yeah,
That's
I was
the
just
main
curious
reason.
because I knew that you were using it in the past,
Yes,
so
I
that's
did.
the reason. Because and 2.8 is also my favorite favorite lens for anything.
It's very nice. If I would not use the other lenses and I have plenty of space in my backpack, I would use it all the time. But when I was searching for some compromise, I found that this is not just a compromise. This is a great solution for me, and I'm really happy with this small lens. And I use it, and I think I have a slide of percentage of use of my lenses during the Pantanal trip, and you can see how much I use this lens for my pictures. So here is all the equipment in one backpack. It's very important for me to have one backpack for everything. I don't take everything on every trip. For example, 90mm macro is definitely the lens I leave at home when I'm heading to Pantanal, because there are not many macro motifs out there. But what I every time I pack are wide angle lenses, middle range, which is 4150, and the big one. The big one is wide one, but I have covered the lens by some stickers which are made precisely for this lens, so it's more it's less visible in the nature. So I prefer this kind of camouflage of my lens.
Right.
Just a few words about my trips. I'm traveling all the time. I started to travel 2000, and I didn't stop so far with a small vacation during the COVID era, and I hope it's over right now. And when I switched to OM system or Olympus, I traveled first time to Tenerife, and then I started to travel across the globe again. So far, I realized around 30 expedition around the world. And if you see, 5 of them with OM system led me to the Pantanal, the place where I will talk about very soon. The first trip to Pantanal was made with a Canon equipment before I switched. It was exactly the same year I switched later. So this is my Pantanal trip so far. And the upcoming trips are to Costa Rica within 1 month from now. And for the next year, I plan to return to Pantanal 2 times again. And in a year 26, I plan to go there again. So Pantanal is very favorite place for me to travel, and I try to speed up the returning to Pantanal if possible every year, because it's amazing place for wildlife photography. You noticed my trip I offer to the other people. This is the only trip I can offer for those who are watching us, because all the other trips I plan are already full, and I really don't know what will happen after June 2026, because I don't have the exact plans after. But what I know, the only one possible trip I can offer is May next year for the one person. So if you want to join, just let me know. So this was just a few words about me, and now let's go for the Pantanal, because this is what you are waiting for, I guess. So the Pantanal. What exactly is the Pantanal? This is the largest wetland in the world, and the size of the wetland is similar to England itself. We will find most of the Pantanal in Brazil part. It's also bordering with Bolivia and Paraguay, and we can find the parts of this wetland in these areas. But the most accessible, most often visited, is the Brazilian part. If you see the Pantanal from Google Maps and from drone or whatever, you can notice there are two different places or two different areas. It's a short to say, it's a northern Pantanal and southern Pantanal, and each of them are quite different. If you look closer to southern Pantanal, you will see a lot of small lakes. There's a lake, thousand lakes literally. If you see the northern part, there are just few major lakes, but mostly it's dry. It's mostly the savanna. And this is one of the major advantage of the northern part against the southern, because you can see in a certain time of year a huge concentration of birds in a single place. Southern part is very productive as well. So my next trip next year will be partly in the northern, partly in the southern part. But my talk will be today just about the northern part, because I didn't visit the southern so far. So we will be talking about the northern part. If you go to Pantanal, you start probably in Cuiabá, which is the major city with the airport. So if you take a plane from Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro, you are heading mostly to Cuiabá. And from Cuiabá, it's over 2.5 hours to get to this gate. This gate is at the beginning of the Pantanal, and after this gate is very dirty road which leads you to the river, and it takes about 140 kilometers, I guess, or something. So it's a very long drive from this gate to the last part of the northern Pantanal, which is the river with Jaguars. So we will virtually go through this road, and I will show you what's possible to see around the road. And it's very weird for us, especially from middle of Europe. It's a very rural area, so there are a lot of cows everywhere. Sometimes if you are driving the car and you are facing the huge amount of cows walking against you, it's a little bit nightmare, especially if you are heading to the airport. But yes, if you stop the car, the cows are passing slowly and constantly, and probably you will see nothing will happen with the car. But sometimes it's a little bit scary, I have to admit. And then you are going there to your major place to stay. It's a lodge or ranch, if you want to call it. And there's something which is very different to our Middle Europe comfort zone, because in our country, if you see any bird or mammal or whatever, it tries to escape all the time. It's very hard to get closer to your target. You have to camouflage yourself and so on. So this was the first time I entered Pantanal, and we arrived to the lodge. There were many birds all around, and I thought, oh, okay, these birds are probably the part of the farm, part of the ranch because they are so close, they are so tame, they are not scared by people. So we said, okay, we will not photograph them today, maybe tomorrow, just to make some pictures. And they were wild. They just were passing through. So I took a picture with mobile, and then they disappear. I never seen them during that trip. So it was amazing to see how tame are the animals around the Trans-Pantanaira. I mentioned that you start in city of Cuiabá. The gate is very close to the last city, which name is Poconé. From Poconé to the Porto Jofre, to the river. This is the trail you have to go with your car if you want to see the jaguars, because the jaguars are in Porto Jofre area here and on this river mouth and so on.
And that is the distance you mentioned, roughly 140 kilometers, right? From Poconé.
Yes, from Poconé, from the gate. The gate is somewhere maybe 5 kilometers from the Poconé. There is the gate, and from the gate, this is a very dirty road. It's straight road, so you don't need to have too detailed GPS navigation, because it's just a one road. There's no side roads to get lost. The only side roads leads to the lodges. It's formerly the farms, and the farmers started to offer accommodation in the place. So if you head to Pantanal, you have plenty of options to stay there. Every single farm, every single lodge is a little bit different from each other, and I visited virtually all of them. Maybe I just missed 3 or 4. So during all my trips, I always try something with what I know, but something new. So at this moment, I most or more or less know every place you can stay in the Trans-Pantanaira, and I can confirm that every single place has something interesting to photograph, and it makes sense if you see more, maybe 3-4 farms during the trip, because you have different experiences. Because some of them have river nearby, some of them have some ponds, some of them have large savanna places, and the animals are different in each environment. So this is good to change the place time to time. The accommodation is mostly simple, because it used to be farms. They built some accommodation for people, but don't expect some 6 stars luxury resorts. But they are very comfortable. They all have the air condition. But it's very common to meet the horses, meet the rias, as you see before, meet the cows. But it's a nice addition to your stay, to your feelings, and all the other birds and the animals are right around the lodge. So sometimes it's very worth to just walk around or sit down by the garden and see around it. You will see the woodpeckers and the other stuff, and you probably will notice a large trees. It's mostly a savanna. And the savanna are some small trees, and sometimes there are some solitary big trees with something huge on the thick branches. The something huge on the branches is nest of the largest flying animal in this area, and it's a Jabiru stork. I have opportunity to photograph the Jabiru storks many times. They are very common there, and they are very impressive, as well as their buildings as a nest. So it's very nice if they have a solitary tree with the nest to look around as the Jabirus are bringing the branches and the parts to build it. So the structure of the building is enormous, and it's you have to say, oh, they are very good builders. But if you see the Jabiru storks building the nest, they are a little bit clumsy on the look, and it's hard to understand how they build such a huge construction. Because looking at this stork, push myself to help him, because he has just a bill, no hands, no nothing, and it's a never-ending story. He tried and he tried to arrange the one branch, and it takes infinity, and he didn't make it finally. So he left it like this. But this took for about, I don't know, 30 minutes. and he was still struggling with just a single branch. So it was very fun story from my perspective, not from him. The Jabiru storks nests are visible if you notice them in savanna anytime and anywhere. In a Pantanal, there's a great season. It's a blooming season, sometimes between July to September, and a lot of trees are blooming in a pink colors. So it's very interesting to photograph the birds in a pink colors. And we stopped by one nest nearby the road. You can see the dirty road I mentioned before. This is the same road from Poconé to Porto Jofre. So we stopped for 1 minute and photographed this Jabiru stork staying nearby the nest. It was very interesting scene, very contrast, colorful, and I liked this scene very much. And I was really surprised when I sent this picture to one of the most prestigious contests in America. It's Nature's Best Photography contest. It won the category of birds. So it was a little bit funny for me because sometimes I spend hours to think about the pictures and creating it and setting right the camera and make everything very hard. And this picture took me maybe 30 seconds or maybe 1 minute to stop by the road, just take a picture, make the compose as clean as possible, and move to the next lodge. And I was lucky enough to win the category of this very prestigious contest. So sometimes it happens. It's nice to try.
Sometimes I think you just need to be in the right place in the right time, right? And this was exactly it. And obviously you need to know how to handle the equipment, that's for sure. Yeah. But then the place and timings.
Yeah, and feel the potential because the Jabiru nests are impressive, but they are very common. So after all the Jabiru nests I've seen so far, I'm a little bit choosy and try to find the right one which I feel is good for the photography, include the other part of nature, the branches and the flowers and so on. Here's an example of one of my pictures with 40-150. This is a typical picture I took. The small animal with the environment. I don't need to have some nice bokeh out there, so I don't care about the fastest aperture, just 5.6 or whatever. So this is one of my favorite pictures.
Sorry, it's very nice. Sorry, Peter, did you say 40-150?
This is 40-150, yeah.
Oh, really? Is it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because if I photograph it with a wide lens, it will be just the portrait of the storks. They were very close. It's really not far from the road, so we stopped by. I photographed them on the nest, and I also used the wider angle to picture them both.
I see.
Because you know these are huge birds. They looks like, we know our storks in my country, and this is maybe half size of this stork. This is this stork is size of the adult person. It's similar like me in weight, in height. So they are very impressive even at night, because at night they don't sleep on the nest. Sometimes they just stay nearby, and you can photograph them with a very lightened night sky, because in Pantanal there are no lights. It's obvious because it's far from the cities, so you can photograph at night. The Milky Way is impressive, and if you count the place with some mobile phone app, you can arrange the angle of the Milky Way towards the nest or solitary tree.
So, sorry, I have to ask to the previous picture. Did you lit the trunk of the tree with some light or something? Because I
yes, of course. I don't know. This is not a self-lightened tree. It's a dark tree, of course, and it's lightened by my torchlight.
So the exposure was around what, 10 seconds, 20 seconds?
No. This is typical. It's a 25 seconds exposure, I guess.
Okay.
Nice. If you wish, I can find it more.
No, you don't need to go into the very details, but yeah. So it's up to
25 seconds, and just maybe 1 or 2 seconds of lighten by my torchlight.
Very nice.
So I use the solitary trees in a Pantanal with Jabiru nests as a main subject for more wide-angle pictures I take there. When you are traveling across the Pantanal, sometimes you can meet the places where is high concentration of birds and wildlife at all, and these places are with water. As I mentioned, the northern part is not so it's not so wet as the southern part, and there's really rare to see the large portion of water. So if the water is concentrated in a particular place, the animals are concentrated as well. So you can see the photographer staying on the bridge. On the right side, there is one of the kingfishers. Here is another kingfisher flying, white egret. There are some birds inside, as well as the caimans and so on. So stopping by the bridges, if there is a water, is great place to photograph the Pantanal nature. Because if you look among the grass and among the water lily and so on, you can see that there are plenty of animals searching for the fishes. Because the fishes, small ones, big ones, are the major feeding source of most of the birds. But some birds are specialized to some different kind of food. So, for example, this limpkin is specialized for the snails. But most of the big storks, like this wood stork and egrets, are focusing on the fishes. So this is how it looks like in the morning. If you find the perfect place and you wait for the morning, most of the white egrets and most of the storks are coming from their resting place, and they are flying over to find the best place to get the fishes. So again, it's a great place to photograph more white with the long exposure. For example, this exposure is 1/15 of seconds. It's a handheld. So this is why I like my equipment from OM System, because the strong stabilization allows me to try it and allows me try the long exposures from handheld. Because before this photograph, I just photographed something different with some high speed shutter speed, and I noticed a big flock flying over with the rest staying motionless below. So I said, okay, I will try it. So there's no time to fix it on a tripod and this kind of stuff. So I always try handheld first, and we'll see what happens.
In general, do you use tripod a lot for telephoto photography?
I usually I don't use the tripod at all, but I always bring the tripod with me. That's the reason why I use the smaller one from Peak Design, because it's very compact, small ones. But in certain situations, it helps me to get the picture I want, and I never know if I will need the tripod. So I wear it all the time. Mostly I don't use it. Maybe 94, 95%. I like the percentage. 95% I don't use it, but the 5% are pretty nice. And sometimes if there is, for example, some stronger wind, or you need some longer exposure below 1/15 of second, maybe 1/5 of second, especially if I use it for ND filter, when I need to get to 1 second exposure with telephoto lens. So I use the tripod for this, but that wasn't the case.
Perfect, thanks.
Well, these active places in the morning and afternoon are great places for trying the birds in flight technique, because there are a lot of birds. They are pushing each other to go to other places because they are taking care about the territory and food source. So they sometimes are flying all the time, and you just choose the right one and try to photograph. So this is a great place, the bridges, where you can try to photograph the birds in flight, because you have plenty of opportunities. And if it's nice light color, it's great place to photograph. This is one of the advantage of open lands like wetlands, like Pantanal or Florida, of course, and the other places, because it's open area. There's a plenty of light. You don't need to push your ISO too high to get high speed shutter speed. So you can work with 1,000, 2,000 of second exposure, and it's still not a big deal for ISO.
Mhm. Peter,
So
as we talked about tripod, there is a question from Mike, so I will just ask now because then it wouldn't fit into our discussion. Would a monopod be useful when you are in the small boats?
uh, it would be, but everything about the photography is about the right angle. Sometimes, if people are using a tripod or monopod too often, they use it because it's comfortable for them, but not necessarily the best way how to get the best angle of the animal. So, of course, if you feel that it's comfortable for you and it's hard to hold the lens for a long time, of course, this is a solution. It's a perfect solution. The only drawback is sometimes even 30 centimeters lower or higher or left or right makes the difference in the picture, which is very noticeable after. So I don't prefer, especially on a boat where you don't need to hold your camera all the time, because you can left it on the ground or on your knees while you are sitting, and you don't need to carry it the whole time. So I think it's not so practical, but yes, for some people can be the solution. So it's always important to think, what will I get from using the monopod or tripod? I will get more comfort, or I will get better pictures. If it's better pictures, it's fine. If it's more comfort, why not? But always think about if it's compatible with great pictures, because they should be the first prize for the choose.
Yeah, the truth is, and you said it, that the stabilization system is so powerful that
Mm.
the monopod, from the picture point of view, is not really that important anymore.
Yeah. What I recommend, try what are you able to hold handheld, because sometimes people remember from the past that there are some secure times, let's say the opposite of the focal length. So if I'm using the 400 millimeters, it's double, it's 800 point of view. So I had to use 1/800 of second
Hmm.
in a comfort. Of course, we have some stabilization. We can read it's some compensation few EV. So we say, okay, I can try 100 of second, and this will be my safe place. But my advice is try it lower. Try to photograph in series, hold the series for 1 second, and then count the number of sharp pictures. Sometimes you will be really surprised what are you able to hold sharp even without a tripod. So my safe space, I know it with a wide lens, is 1/25 of second.
Hmm.
1/25 second, I have maybe 90% of sharp pictures if I'm holding the camera, hold the breath, of course. I'm strong myself. So this is my sweet spot. I can go there anytime. But
Mhm.
sometimes I got the very sharp pictures even with 1/50 of second. So it's good to know the spot where it starts to be impossible to get sharp pictures. So maybe you will find that you have sweet spot, let's say 1/30 of second. You can notice that 1/50 of second, it's maybe 40% of success. So go lower, go to the place where it's no success at all, and you know that maybe 1/5 of second is the way where you are not able to get sharp pictures handheld anytime.
Mhm.
So when you find something statical like a owl or trogon or whatever, you need only one picture. You need only one sharp picture, because the animal don't change the shape or the place to sit, like a small tits or whatever. So if you know that you will be able to hold 1/15 of seconds, not every picture, but maybe every 6 or 7 picture, it's enough to hold a series and delete the rest out of the sharp ones. So this is how I do it, because sometimes you miss the opportunity just with the time you spend with opening your tripod. And of course you can place the camera on tripod and walk with tripod, but it's not comfortable to walk around, and you are again pushed by the tripod to photograph it from the certain height of the tripod. So you don't recognize the other angles because you are forced by the tripod to photograph from 1.45 m, and that's it. So you don't have 160 or 80 centimeters. So this is why I don't use the tripod unless it's necessary and unless it's important for the picture.
Yeah, and also the question is, I just realized that you and me, we think that we are talking only to like 100% to Olympus users. It might be that people who are watching us are using different type of equipment, maybe some old DSLR cameras, where obviously the stabilization system was not that powerful. Yeah, and in that case, I think with all DSLR cameras, obviously the monopod would be one of the, let's say, assistant points, right?
Yeah, and again, it's my advice is the same for any manufacturers. It doesn't matter if it's Olympus, OMSYSTEM, or Nikon or Sony. Just try your sweet spot, your 100% sweet spot, which means 9 out of 10 pictures will be sharp. Then the so-so, it's maybe 50% will be sharp. Then the lowest one, where some pictures are sharp, and the impossible one where no picture is sharp. And it doesn't matter if it's 100 or 1/5 of second, but just find it. Just know about it, because in the field you have to decide, should I take my tripod or not? And you have to know, okay, now I will be photographing 1/50 of seconds. If I'm not able to hold it, I start to make the tripod ready as fast as possible. If I know it's okay, maybe 50% of the picture will be blurred, but the 50 will be sharp. So it's good to know the sweet spots and use the tools according to your experiences. Not that I will say, yes, use the tripod because it's safe one. And there is 100 of reasons why not to use it, and 100 why yes.
Yeah, just because we have just got to the point where we don't know whom we are talking to, if it's all Olympus or other users, I will just put a very short poll. It will take you maybe 1 second into the chat. And if you could please be so kind and just click whether you are Olympus user or are not. So basically just click yes or no, and that's just about it. You don't need to do anything else. Thank you so much, all of you. And Peter, please go ahead.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see the polls, how it goes.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, it's there are plenty of birds. I can tell something about everyone, but regarding to the birds in flight pictures, there is one bird which is some kind of jewel among the birds in Pantanal, and this is the one. This is sunbittern. The sunbittern is very well colored, well camouflage colored among the birds. He is almost invisible until he moves, and he likes the shallow ponds and some river banks and so on. And he is walking in the shades and so on. And his colors are not so bright on the first look. But if he finds the reason to fly away and open the wings, he starts to get quite a different bird. And it's one of many targets in Pantanal is photograph this bird in flight. The trick is they are not flying constantly. So they are sometimes, if they feel they are disturbed, they just run away. They don't fly at all. But sometimes it's very nice if you find a place where there are more than one sunbittern in one place, because they are very territorial and they are chasing each other to leave the territory. And this is the situation where you have two chances, maybe the first one, which is flying away, or the second one chasing the first one. And we have great opportunities during the last trip to Pantanal this year in June, because there were a place where used to be a river, and now it's very dry, and the river goes really down, and it's not a river at all at this moment. Maybe next year again, but it creates a very long, shallow place with water, with plenty of wildlife around. I've never seen so concentrated wildlife during any of my river boat trips like from this place. And yes, this was great opportunity to photograph these amazing birds with wings open. So this is one of the targets always in every trip to Pantanal, because This is usually pictured in a book of Birds of Pantanal. Sometimes if you are going across the Trans-Pantanal, the dirty road, you are heading for your Jaguar pictures. You can recognize two types of drivers. The first one is tourists. The tourists are driving very slowly. The dirt is not so annoying because they are trying to see the birds and wildlife around the road. But the locals, they don't care. They just need to go through this dirty road and from A to B, and they don't care about the speed limits out there. And after this car, everything is covered by the dust. So here you can see the small part of our driving. If you drive behind the car, so sometimes you don't see anything. So you have to keep your speed because you don't see if there is any crossing animal, if there is the car is stopping for a while or something. So it's good to stop for not drive too fast. And after the dirt is going up, of course, it's going down again, and it takes some time. Sometimes it takes maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes or something. And I found it very helpful for creating beautiful pictures. It's not comfortable, of course not. It's not good for technique, for equipment. I know the equipment is very sturdy and it's built against the dust and rain and ice and so on. But I try to keep it away from this discomfort. But sometimes you have no choice. Just the car just passing, you staying there. The dust is everywhere. And I notice if you photograph the birds in a sunset after the car is passing, sometimes it's very nice for a few seconds or minutes if you photograph against the light with dropping dust. So you can find a very unusual lighting in a scene like this. In this case of Black Hawk, it's a young Black Hawk sitting nearby the road. So this is annoying, and sometimes it's a good opportunity to make the pictures really nice.
Peter, this was an amazing picture, the one you just showed, of our weekly theme, because as I said at the beginning, or maybe I didn't say it, so I'll say it now, our major theme is creativity. And I mean, this really is a creative approach as a whole. And finally, you will get this very nice, amazing creative image.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks. It perfectly fits.
Have a Zoom very soon about this topic, about creativity in nature. So our people watching us can register for the Zoom as well.
We will. Just let me just step in right now, because again, you will find it on our website. And basically, if you just select the language as English, you go down, then this blue zoom, as you can see it, this is exactly it. This is what Peter is talking about. This is the wildlife photography 10 tips to think outside of the box, where you will get amazing tips from Peter. We have had this one in Czech, so I know what it's about. We will have it also in English. So if you really want to find and learn other stuff than what you are seeing today, then please join us on, it is on 30th of October. And the timing is, I just don't remember. Yeah, it's the same time as we have this YouTube. So 7 p.m. 7 p.m. you'll be able to join. Okay, I'm getting back to your pictures, Peter. Here you go.
Okay. When I was talking about the light and backlight and so on, I have to say that in a Pantanal, it's one of few places I'm visiting where I can play with colors and sunrise and sunsets. Because usually I'm traveling to the tropical rainforest and there is nothing. It's just dark. There is just you notice it's a little bit darker, and after 10 minutes it's totally dark. It's very fast and so on. In a Pantanal, as well as experienced in Florida as well, and every flat places, there is something really special which I don't know from my country, from the place where I live. Because sometimes after the sunset, maybe half an hour after the sunset, there is still plenty of light and plenty of beautiful colors, and you can play with the silhouettes. So I really like to work with silhouettes. And in the Pantanal, this is one of the best places I visited. I guess it's very similar in Africa because it's a very similar savanna landscape with the flat places. So after the sun is going out, just wait 30 minutes and just look at the colors, because sometimes it's unbelievable, and it's very nice where you can change the approach from the detail of the birds and photograph them as a silhouettes with the sunsets and the colors around. And of course, I try to use the sun as one of the major actor in my pictures, especially in Pantanal, because there the sun is very strong during the day. It's overheated, and you don't want to move at all somewhere around 11 to 3 p.m. It's really hot. It's over 35. But after 4 p.m., it's starting to get better and better. And if you photograph the animals in action in a backlight, it's really, really beautiful atmosphere, which I don't know from the other places, from Ecuador or Borneo. It's almost impossible to experience that. So this was the situation. I photographed these small owls. Again, if you live in Florida or you know the places in Florida, they are common in a certain places, and but they nest in the middle of city. And here I found them with help of my guide from the place in a Pantanal. Mm-hmm. There's a small video about the setting. So as you can see, to get a best background, we were right on the ground, and there are 2 owls right here, and there's a sunset. So we experienced beautiful light, and we can play with them. We were not too close, so they were really relaxed, and it was amazing experience from Pantanal. It was first time this year I've seen these owls in Pantanal.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm the technical guy, but I have noticed in the video the second lens on the left side was 150 to 600. Am I right?
No, it's a 1 400, 100 400.
100 400. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So even that one was enough. I mean, like.
Yeah, of course. It's I don't know. Maybe I will try to get. Yeah, I photograph it to 400.
Yeah.
And this is the same focal length, so yeah, it's pretty okay. It's just a question of the aperture, but we were relatively close to the owls comparing to the background. So the background was blurred, and it was fine to use it.
Amazing. Thanks.
So if possible, I try to use the backlight, and I also time to time try to use the strong midday light. So if you feel the light is too strong and it doesn't make sense, it's not bad if you have opportunity to try just heavy underexposure. So in these examples, these birds are photographed in the middle of day in a direct light, which didn't make sense for some nice classical pictures. But time to time, I try to heavy underexpose and get some very dramatic feeling of the picture. It's not possible to use it all the time, but sometimes if they cooperate, I use it. Why not?
So you go to like -3, for example, or
-2
like that,
and 3. It depends. I always watch the LCD and see what happens with the picture, because sometimes if you underexpose too much, let's say 4, -4, it's very hard to recover some parts of the bird. So it's good to balance it, or try maybe -3, -2, and choose the better one in a post process. Because if you photograph in direct light, sometimes you are confused with what you see on the LCD, because it has to fight with the ambient light.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
The great part of the Pantanal also is, as I mentioned, the animals are very tame, so you can get really close to some of them. Not to all of them, but sometimes it happens. So besides the classical photograph, you can photograph the details of the head, some portraits, like this rhea. Again, the background is created by blooming trees in the background, as I noted before. This is crested caracara. Just catch the frog. This picture was fun of creating because I was laying on the ground, photograph some small cardinals making bath in a small portion of water, and now I found some shade overhead. So I just look around what happens, and the caracara just fly over and catch the frog, and it was just 2 meters from me. So it was great to have this opportunity to photograph this portrait.
Nice.
Another example, this bird is a jacamar, and this jacamar was sitting on the sign where is something like don't walk alone because there is a place where you can meet the jaguar, and he was sitting right on the sign, and it was his starting place to catch the insects. So it was really approachable. We photographed it with mobile phone, and I also photographed his funny front face portrait because it's a really rare opportunity. These birds are common, but not so tame as this one. So it's good to use the opportunity to get very close. And this is the same example. It's a nightjar I found during the night walk around the lodge, and he was sitting down on the ground and didn't move, maybe from 50, 40 centimeters from me. So I carefully sit down, arrange my wide-angle lens with a diffuser and photograph it, and then I just leave, and he was still there. This is very nice kind of vulture, because vultures usually don't have a nice heads. They are turkey vultures and black vultures, which are not so nice, but this is a really nice one. This is something in between, and you can see them flying around sometimes, but it's very nice if you get such a close. One of the way how to get very close to the birds is photograph them right from the car. I try to swap because now, yeah, you can see the white part of the eye. This is the reason is this is our car, the white car we are photographing from. So if you stay in car, the bird is sitting nearby the road, just stop, take your car not moving. Sometimes it's good to stop the car at all and photograph right from here, because they don't feel it's danger for them. So they are able to stay there for long minutes.
Peter, speaking about the reflections, there was a question some time ago from Steve. He asked, do you ever use a polarizer when photographing birds?
I do sometimes, but I forget to use it, because in a photographing of landscape, you have plenty of time to prepare everything. You are there 1 hour before sunset. You will photograph the nice colors after the sunset. So you place the tripod, camera, place your filters. Maybe you find them dirty, so you replace, make them clean, and again, and you have plenty of time for everything. In a bird photography, sometimes it's just about your speed of your reaction. And if I recall that this is a situation good for the polarizer and the other filter, I use it. But most of the time, I just photograph what I see, and if after that I have some pictures of my vision, then I say, okay, it would be nice to have a polarizer. For this reason, I use a magnetic ones, because I don't need to attach them complicatedly. I just remove the lens hood and attach the polarizer after. But I don't use it much because I prefer more light, because again, I mostly travel to the forests, and every single part of ray of sun is welcome, because usually there's a dark. I normally photograph with I don't know, ISO 5000, 4000 to get some reasonable speed. And in a Pantanal, I forget that I have great opportunity to use the polarizer, because it's not the place where I come all the time, because just once a year. So yes, in some cases it will be great. I have it, I use it, but I have to recall myself. Oh, this is the situation. Use it for reflection of water, of leaves or whatever. Yeah. It's not
Also, as you're speaking about being fast enough when shooting pictures of birds, Rajiv is asking, do you have Pro Capture set up ready, probably in some custom mode, in such cases as in the bitterns?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I will go very soon to the pictures which I took with Pro Capture, and it's very good to, before the trip itself, think about what I will photograph on the trip. If I'm heading to Borneo, most of my targets are small stuff like lizards, snakes, insects, sometimes birds, but mostly this stuff. So I know I will photograph mostly macro. I will photograph mostly with focus stacking or just a single shot macro. So I have ready my macro mode all the time. If I'm traveling to the Pantanal, what I will photograph? I will photograph still sitting birds like this toucan. I will photograph some action like flying birds or some fights of the birds. And I will photograph something unexpected, which is great for Pro Capture. So I have ready these three topics on my camera. I set my birds in flight on custom mode 1, Pro Capture on custom mode 2, and if I really need to switch fast, I assign one of the button to C1 and C2. So whenever I'm photographing this toucan and I say, okay, he will just leave, I just press the button with my Pro Capture, the camera switch to Pro Capture mode, and I can photograph the takeoff. This is the way how I'm thinking about the setting of the camera. So yes, I definitely in a Pantanal I have these three topics ready by different settings on my camera with a custom button. Yeah.
Amazing. I wish all of us could use the features as you can.
Yeah.
Because they are there, they are in the camera. We just need to learn how to set them up and how to use them and quickly switch from one to another.
Yeah, one of my favorite quote is, "It doesn't matter how fast is your camera. What matters is your speed, your reaction. How fast are you able to focus, compose, find a nice background, photograph, and so on. If your camera photograph 120 frames per second and you are too slow, so your camera is not the one who take the picture, it lose the picture. So it's always important to start by the photographer itself, learn how to fast switch the lenses, how to fast attach the converter, how fast open and get ready the tripod, how fast you can attach the polarizer, how fast you can do this and that. And then if you are fast enough, it's a perfect that you have camera which can help you to get some unusual pictures. So of course it's important for me. It's very important that the camera is able to photograph 50 frames per second with autofocus. It's perfect, but the first stage I have to be fast myself.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So by the way, I'm just showing the pictures of common, let's say, common birds of Pantanal. If you are fan of the parrots, the Pantanal is one of the best places. Beside the Papua, I've been in Papua this August, and it's very good for parrots again. But in Pantanal, they are much more approachable. There are a lot of different stories behind. You can watch around because they stay nearby the lodge, and they are very noisy, so you can find them very easily. And one of the most iconic one is the hyacinth macaw, which is one of the targets usually for every trip. So there are few places where macaws are common, and we had here one of the very nice opportunities to photograph very early morning. We were going to see the anteater because we had some message that the anteater is going nearby, and this morning was very productive. It started just after sunrise with these three macaws on the tree. So we photographed the classical photos, and I said it would be nice to keep also the environment and the moon above and so on, because it was almost the full moon. So I also used the wide angle to have both the detail or a portrait picture as well as this environmental picture. So I love on Pantanal that the animals are cooperative. They are, let's say, tame, and they are not disappearing after they see the people. They stay there for, I don't know, 15 minutes. So we have opportunity to photograph and walk around, find the best angle. I did use the wide angle, so it was a very, very nice opportunity. But we were heading to the place with anteater, and it really occurs. So it was fantastic because anteater is not so common in northern part of Pantanal to observe. The drawback was that there were maybe 3 groups of people which tried to photograph the anteater, and he feels a little bit scary and he ran away. So I said, okay, I will not run. I will stay here because anteater is running, and the picture from back as the anteater is running is not my target. So I stare on a single place when I took this picture, and I look at the right, and there was armadillo sitting on some dirt, and look around what happens there. It was fantastic combination because I've seen armadillos maybe 2 times during my 6 trips to Pantanal. And now he was really cooperative in a really beautiful early morning light. So we have both the anteater and armadillo from 10 square meters. So it was amazing morning. And maybe a few days after, we also find this tapir bathing in the middle of river, and this is exactly the river when I mentioned when I was talking about the sunbittern birds in flight, bird flight pictures. It was the same river which came down with the dryness, and the tapir came here because it was shallow to cool down his body, and we have amazing opportunity to photograph him soak in the water. And there is another one. This is the backstage video I took after maybe 2 hours of waiting if the tapir will come to one pond, which is his favorite ones. But after the sun was going down, it was getting dark very fast. And I said, okay, guys, we were not lucky, so we can start to pack our equipment. And they say, Peter, look. And I look around, and the 2 tapirs came from the forest right at the bank of the small pond. And this was exactly what we were waiting for 2 hours. And it happens at the moment where I say it doesn't have chance to see them. So here is my picture of the mother and sub-adult baby drinking from water. It was very unexpected and very welcome observation.
Nice.
Among the most common observation in Pantanal belongs the caimans, the jacaré. Caimans are everywhere. If you will not see the caiman in Pantanal, something is wrong with you. Maybe you have some kind of blindness, because they are everywhere. There are literally millions of them in a Pantanal. So maybe every piece of water has its own caiman jacaré colony. And I was
no swimming, right?
No swimming. Ah, yeah, they are not so dangerous, but I don't know. I never swim with jacaré before, so I don't want to recommend it or so. But this was very nice story, because I was trying to photograph them from the eye level. So I found this place. I went down. This was my place. I was staying for 2 or 3 hours, and say, okay, it's perfect. I go there afternoon and we'll continue. But afternoon, these are the pictures I took in a sunrise, sorry.
Nice.
And the caimans are really beautiful. But afternoon, I came to this place. This is a morning picture. And this is the same place afternoon. As the water was moving, the flowers were moving as well. And it covers everything. So I had no chance during that trip to photograph the caimans again. And it was very frustrated because these are only the pictures I can take during the photograph, and it's not what I was thinking about. Sometimes you can get very close to jacare. They are maybe 2 meters long. They are not so big as the African or saltwaters, but if you are very close, sitting nearby them, they have opened the mouth. It's good to be ready to run. But I didn't need it. They never attacked me, but sometimes they are breathing deeply, which is one of the signs that they say you are very close, guy. Keep your distance. But even with a tele lens, you can get nice portraits of them basking. And again, the picture with pink background is nothing artificial. It's just the blooming trees nearby the water. The jacares are almost motionless. You don't see them to eat something maybe 1 or 2 weeks. You just see them, just they are floating or sitting outside the water and nothing happens. There are capybaras around. Sometimes capybaras sit around and nothing happens, like here. But sometimes capybaras are crossing their territory and they get to get a feeling that they need to eat it. Now this is the troop of the capybaras, and this is the place where I photographed the owls. Maybe 2 hours later, this is the place with owls I showed you before. Capybaras are aquatic. They share the place with caimans. They are very cute. They are really nice and beautiful. But one of the main reasons the capybaras are in Pantanal is to feed the carnivorous animals. So I was witnessing this attack of caiman to capybara. They catch it first, drown them underwater, and after 5 minutes, the capybara is gone, and they are waiting for next few hours when the capybara gets more, let's say, eatable because they have very tough skin, and they started to eat the capybaras, and it was very, very action situation. For most of the people, the reason to go to Pantanal is to visit the rivers. Now we were going to the Pantanera, which is dirty road. Around there are some lakes. There are some lodges where you can go around. And what we saw so far was from the surrounding of the Transpantanera and so on. And this is how it looks on the river. The river has different animals you can photograph and from different angle because you are inside the water and you photograph them to the banks. So it's very nice opportunity to photograph some more scary birds and wildlife. This is how it looks like on a riverbank. Again, capybaras, black vulture, caimans, and this is typical area with jaguars. Sometimes the jaguars, as a main target of many photographers in Pantanal, are invisible until they move. So if you were anytime in a safari in Africa, and I've been there a very short time, but I was very surprised with lions because when we approached the place with lions, they were invisible. And I asked my guide, the lions will come or whatever, or what happens now? And he said, no, they are sleeping here. And suddenly the tail rise from the grass and fell down. And I said, oh, wow, they are really invisible. And this is the same with jaguars. Maybe on the previous 2 pictures, not all of you noticed that there are jaguars as well. Here is the jaguar watching these caimans because this is one of the main source of their food. But you can see it's very nicely hidden in a vegetation. And here, this is the place where we found the jaguar as well. Here is the jaguar on the riverbank. And it's invisible until he moves or until somebody spotted. The local boatsmen are really nice guys with very nice eyes. So they can spot the jaguar first. You notice that this big cat is really hard to find. we have a great experience with these two. It's a pair of jaguars. This is the male, this is the female, and they constantly mate during the session. So we found them when they were laying on the ground. After 5 minutes, they wake up. They have the action. I have a lot of photographs, but I will not share it to keep their privacy and out of the newspapers. But yes, this couple was mating. After the mating, there's a nice action between interaction between them both. They just lay again, and it repeats all the time. So it's very nice observation.
It's not even after 10 o'clock, Peter. You cannot even show it.
Oh yeah. I'm aware of this, but I really don't know when anybody will replay it from the recording. So yeah, that's the reason. Of course, the jaguars are hidden sometimes very nicely in the vegetation. Again, this is picture with 40-150. And they are very good swimmers because their main food source are jaguars. Oh, no, sorry. Sometimes as well. The caimans and capybaras. This is the main food source. They also eat egrets, some birds, but mostly the jacare and capybaras.
Mm-hmm.
So here you can see how jaguar is able to swim. They are very good swimmers. They cross the river time to time. It's a very common observation. And this was also one of my target for the last trip, to photograph the jaguar from eye level from the water. And it finally happens this year. So I'm really happy that I photographed it from this perspective and with a direct look at the camera. So this is one of the pictures I'm really proud of.
How far are you at that picture from the jaguar?
Not far. All the pictures of jaguars from Pantanal came from the boat, and the jaguars don't care about the boat. So we were just waiting for jaguar, which he was swimming and approach us. Maybe it's 15 meters, maybe 20 meters, not far.
Yeah, but it's quite a detail. So you are using the 150-400, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I use it very often. Mm-hmm. So this is a situation everybody is waiting for: the jaguar approaching the bank where is the caiman, and this is the action everybody wants to photograph. It's amazing action, but not every time it ends with a success for jaguar. To be honest, maybe 90% of what I've seen was that the jaguar missed the caiman disappear, capybara runs away. So jaguar have to go away and search for the other source. But once the jaguar is on the hunt, it's very good opportunity to follow him and wait for the action, for the possible action. This was maybe the best wildlife observation for me in a Pantanal. It was a situation where two capybaras on the left approach this sleeping jaguar on the right. And we have a great advantage during that trip because one person was just making movies. He didn't photograph, he just made the movies. So we have both photograph as well as movies from the section. So thanks to Mirek, my friend, he shared the video with me. And you can see the capybaras are really, really relaxed, as well as the jaguar on the right side. I think he didn't believe what happens because at a certain moment he noticed there are some capybaras right now. And now you see the jaguar is not certainly sure if it's a dream or not, if it's real, because the capybara is approaching so calm.
Lunch is coming. Lunch
is coming itself. This is some kind of delivery service. And here you will see the action from beginning to the end. It takes maybe 4 to 5 seconds. And you see the capybaras are totally relaxed. And the jaguar don't believe it.
Yeah.
And this is great for pro capture, by the way. If you
Because
want,
you know it's going to happen, but you don't know the moment, right?
yeah,
So yeah,
you know it happens. You don't know when it happens. It's maybe 50-kilogram weight capybara, and that's it. That's over.
right.
So we were very lucky to see the whole scene. We have hundreds of pictures of this attack. What was interesting for me that this capybara already have some scares out of the jaguar from some previous experience, and she's still relaxed enough to to go towards the jaguar. So this was one of the best experience I have in Pantanal. It's a question of luck, because here is another attack of a capybara, but the capybara is just very small, and the jaguar catch it. By the way, by the walking, he just make the short move to the right and return with a small capybara on. Didn't move much. So capybaras are rodents. They have many of the babies, and the babies serve. It's hard to say, I know, serve to the carnivores like jacaré and jaguars. Let's say the last important animal in Pantanal are the giant otters. I know it's very long, very long lecture for now, but okay. If you are heading to Pantanal, you definitely want to see river otters, because they are huge. They are very interactive. Usually they live in a small group, so they interact to each other. You can see them fight. You can see them fishing, eating the fish, and so on. And if you are getting very low from the boat, you can get this eye-to-eye level pictures, which is really, really great. And with the reach of the lenses we use in a Micro Four Third, we are able to photograph 800 millimeters viewpoint, or even longer with a 15600. It's 1200 millimeters actually. So these pictures are very welcome all the time, and you can see this is a very quick picture of giant otter. So this is the giant otter. This is the Kokoi heron, and you can compare how huge the otter is. It's a really huge animal.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
This is very nice picture showing the level of water of this river in a certain time of year, because in Pantanal is strictly a seasonal place. Starting from, let's say, December, it starts to rain. The water level is rising steeply up, and it stops sometimes around March or April, and it's going down again. So here you can find the level on the trees where the river actually was a few months ago, before this picture.
Amazing.
Again, one of the main target on the rivers, not depend if you are going for jaguars or not, are kingfishers. There are 5 species of kingfishers in Pantanal. I photograph all of them. Sometimes they are very easy to photograph. Sometimes it's hard, depends on the place as well as the species of kingfisher. Did I say kingfisher or hummingbird before? I don't know.
Kingfisher. I think Kingfisher.
That's good. Sometimes I mix it. I don't know why. So this is not hummingbird. This is kingfisher, and this kingfisher was photographed by the road on a place I noticed. I show you at the beginning of the lecture, where we were staying by the bridge, and the kingfishers were all around. So they were very easy to approach and really tame to get nice pictures. One of the most hard kingfishers to photograph is pygmy kingfisher. It's again, if you are around the river, you photograph 2 or 3 species for sure, and there are 2 more which are more hidden, and this is one of them. This is the smallest one. Let's say it's 8 centimeters small bird, and it's very hard because he's not going to wide open areas. He's still hidden somewhere in the branches. So it's very hard to get some clear picture, because if he noticed the boat, sometimes he disappear very quickly. So this is its nature environment. By the way, the pygmy kingfisher is here. This is the pygmy kingfisher in his nature environment. And I love environmental pictures, but I never seen the place which is nice to photograph with pygmy kingfisher inside. So I'm very happy always if I find the kingfisher on some open area or some bokeh, some background. You can see the scales of the fish. He swelled a few minutes before this picture. So it's always a treasure to photograph it, just a portrait with a clean background. With the other kingfishers, it's much easier than this one. So again, it's the kingfishers are great because you can work with light, you can work with other kind of composition. Sorry, and also sometimes they are great to photograph to hunt the fishes. Sometimes they hunt the fishes spontaneously. Sometimes the fishermen throw the fishes in the water. So if you have opportunity to photograph the kingfishers, it's good to follow the birds along the river, because when the fishermen are throwing their fish, which they don't use after the fishing, the kingfishers learn that if they hear the boat, there probably will be some fishes thrown by the fishermen. So they learn if they hear the boat, it's good to follow the boat and wait for the fishes, because the fishes are not thrown to the water just for photographers. It originally is thrown because they are too small, and the birds learn it's very easy to catch them later. So this is great place and situation. If there are some kingfishers which recognize the boat, they follow the boat, the boatman can stop for a while and can help you get these pictures by throwing the fish in the water, and the kingfisher try to approach and get the fish. And this is exactly the situation I use Pro Capture, because the fish is floating on a water level just for a few moments, and then a kingfisher will come. So I'm just holding my camera with Pro Capture, and when kingfisher approach the viewfinder, I press it, so I know I have the whole series. So it's very impressive topic, and it's great to photograph them. We have many opportunities during last trip because we were in the two places where kingfishers learn how it works with the ships. And
Peter, one
after
question: Pro Capture. You are talking about Pro Capture. We probably all know what it's about. This feature that you can actually take pictures into the pause before you fully press the trigger. But my question is to your personal setup of the Pro Capture. How many images prior to fully pressing the trigger you have set up in the camera? Because you can set up different numbers, right? Which go to maybe 1 second into the past, 2 seconds into the past, and so on and so on. So how many images do you have prior fully pressing the trigger, and if you leave some space for after images? Also,
from my experience, this is very dependable on the situation you photograph. Example is this kingfisher. You probably want to photograph the moment when the kingfisher approached the water, like here, the splash, and what happens right after. So let's say this action takes maybe 2 seconds. In these 2 seconds, the kingfisher move the wings very, very heavily. So there are a lot of wing movements. So you have to say, okay, I will photograph 2 second long action. How long or how fast I can use my shutter speed until the buffer will fill up. This is the first thing you have to do. So probably I don't need in this situation photograph too much pictures in the past, because more or less you know that the kingfisher is approaching. you can get ready. So maybe I use 30 images in the past in this situation, and 60 frames per second if I don't want to follow the Kingfisher, because if you set 60 frames per second, it's Pro Capture 1 or SH1, and it doesn't continuously focus. So I just focus the fish and then send the whole series. Sometimes I want as many pictures as possible. So sometimes I use 120 frames per second. And again, maybe 30 pictures in a pass because it's pretendable, because you see the Kingfisher approaching. But in case that I follow the Kingfisher, like here, he was flying with a really heavy fish. So I have a whole series of flying him away. I set up 50 frames per second, SH2 Pro Capture, and again, maybe 15, 20 seconds, 20 frames in a pass. But I follow him the whole path. So it all depends what exactly you want to photograph and how sudden is the situation itself. When I was photographing toucans in Ecuador, and it was a situation where they leave the nest, so you never know when it happens. So the toucan is looking out of the nest, out of the hole in the tree, and in a certain moment he jumps, and I can guarantee that you will miss it by your senses. So in that case, I set up 90 pictures in a past, because I don't care about the toucan flying away, because it's not a nice flight, let's say. But the moment he tried to go out of the nest is very important, and I probably will miss it. So it very depends on the situation, and it's good to calculate first. Let's say I will photograph 1 second, split of second, or 2 second long. Will I follow the bird? So I need to use the continuous focus. So I need to use SH2 instead of SH1. And if I will use SH1, is it worth to photograph 100, 200, 120 pictures and have everything from 1 second action, or make it slower and have maybe 2 seconds, which is very important, and still 60 frames per second is incredibly fast. So we have plenty of wing shapes, and you can choose from a lot of pictures.
Yeah, with the sequence, actually, we have tried, right? We have tried it with 12 frames per second. You can actually even go to the past like 6 or 7 seconds.
Oh yeah,
something totally like out of the world, out of this world. Unbelievable.
But of course, this is not a sequential you will use for this fast movement, because you will
sure, obviously
you will lost the one. But if you are waiting for the deers, for example, you sleep over and somebody wake you up, and the deers were there 5 seconds ago, so you have a good chance to get a picture.
Right.
So yes, these are the pictures taken with the same situation. And this is the last one, I think, I hope. Last sequential I would like to introduce more deeply, because when I was photographing these photographs, it's a daytime photographs, it's a plenty of light. But in a certain moment, I noticed in one small pond that they are hunting the bats. I came to the lake when at night, because I wish to photograph caimans as they are going across the pond or the small lake with reflecting eyes. So this was my previous idea. But when I get to the pond, the caimans were still. They didn't crisscross the pond as I expected. So I said, okay, I have option to go at home, or I can try to photograph the bats hunting for fishes. I never did it before, and it took me 4 returns to the place to photograph my small series. But I am really proud what I approached, because I didn't have the proper equipment, because I didn't expect that I will photograph hunting bats. I didn't have any trigger. I didn't have any laser trigger or nothing like this. I only have 2 flashes, which I always take with me. And the greatest mystery for me was where exactly I have to focus on, because there was nothing in the dark I can focus.
Mhm.
So I decide I will focus on some caimans. So I focus on a caiman body or caiman head, which I lighten by my torchlight, and I focus my lens first, let it be, and whenever the bat were crossing the place, I just start to expose. So it really helps me. The tool or feature which name as lifetime,
Mhm.
which helps me to see the scene flash by flash at the first moment. So this is actually maybe 20 seconds exposure. So I let the pass and a bat, then I flash the trigger and start expose. And after 1 second, I have seen on the refreshing LCD what I actually photograph. Sometimes there were no bats at all, and sometimes there were 3 or 2 bats in a single picture with black background. So I let the exposure get to 20 seconds or so. The bats already are gone, and the ambient light lighten the scene at all. And after this, I stop my exposure. So
Nice.
it was very experimental. I have maybe 99% of losts, but every night I said, when I returned to my hotel room, I said, tomorrow I will try it again, and I will try different approach. And I tried and tried. So this is interesting because in the front of me there are the small fishes they are hunting, and the small fishes approach the bank, or the close to the bank of the pond every night. In the daytime they were disappear. I was there to photograph caimans in the daytime, but at night they come higher, so the bats can catch them. And I tried different approaches. I try to photograph them with a black background, like here. It's a very fast exposure, just a single exposure with flashlight in the front. And I also try a combination of 3 different lights. So the first light is ambient light, which is created by night itself. The second was the LED light, which was permanent light, lighting the scene. This this approach helps me to keep the movement of the other bats. And finally, the third light is the flash. When I touch the flash, whenever I seen the bat is flying over. So this technique was really tough to get some nice results, but it was very inspirational for me, and I think I will do something later with much better preparation for this.
Peter,
Just,
sorry, can you go back one slide? Because I'm kind of curious about, you said that there was this LED light,
Mhm,
which was like lighting, or which is creating actually the kind of movement on the back. But
mhm.
how come that this kind of movement is like stripped? Why there are the strips?
Yeah, my theory is it's the frequency of LED light. It's
All right. Yeah, I was about to
blinking.
ask if the LED light was flashing or if it's just, yeah, something like
It
that.
was
Okay,
invisible to my eyes. I seen the plain light, but I guess the LED light has some frequency of the light, and I
I see.
think this is the reason, because the stripes are made by the wing beats of the bat, the other
Mhm.
bat. So maybe this is what happens when the light is invisibly blinking. So yeah,
Mhm.
this is just a very interesting effect of
It
it.
looks very cool, actually. It looks
Yeah,
very
yeah, I
cool.
like it. I like it too. I didn't understand, but I said, okay, maybe it's the blinking, the frequency of the LED.
LED light. Okay, thanks.
And this is just for fun. There's another feature for night photography, which is not called lifetime, but live composite. A live composite is taking in a single picture every new light coming to the picture. And this is the picture, I don't know, maybe 1 minute of bad activity. So I set 20 seconds of exposure and let it repeat all the time, and only new lights were added to the picture. And the new lights were created by me because whenever the bat was crossing around, I just pressed the trigger for flashes. So the flashes lighten the bat, and only the bat is crossing was lightened and in a picture. So I found that there is some kind of corridor where they are going very often, and here is, for example, a corridor where they never move until 1 minute. So after this picture and after I returned to my hotel room, I said, okay, tomorrow I will try to focus on the left part of the scene, and that's it. How it was created. It was crazy, but very inspirational session.
Amazing.
So here's another approach to the bats. This is day photograph of bats, but different species, which is resting on a tree trunks. And there's another unusual bird. It's a great potu, which is creating his silhouette like a broken branch. So during the day, it's almost invisible unless you know where to find it. There are, of course, different animals in Pantanal. I'm not able to photograph and even explain everything I've seen there, but maybe you feel out of this presentation why I return so frequently, because the range of the animals you can photograph is really huge, especially the bigger ones like the cats, like mammals and eaters, armadillos, and the others. And I really like the opportunities I have in Pantanal with the light, with the sun, with colors, with the rivers. So I really like to return to Pantanal. Just a few words about the positive part of the Pantanal. This is the positive part. You can get very close to the animals. Here you can see the size of Jabiru stork comparing to adult man. It's almost equal. And sometimes you get to very close to the animals you are wishing to get, and you find them on a grounds of your hotel. Of course, there are some drawbacks of the walking and live in Pantanal, because it's a huge wetland, and this lag is the result of my bad session. After the first session, this is my leg, and after fourth session, it was covered even more because the mosquitoes were everywhere. So even there were maybe 25 degrees Celsius at night, I was totally covered my body by my jacket, my uh, hat, and my long trousers and everything, and still the mosquitoes were able to bite me everywhere. So it was a little bit a nightmare because you never know which one has some sickness.
You just gave us a perfect answer, Peter. Sorry, to my question. In the Pantanal, what has your experience been with mosquitoes, chiggers, and other biting insects? So this is it, yeah.
But yeah, I have to be clear. This happens just after maybe half an hour after the sunset and before sunrise. During the day on a boat, it's not a big deal because it's too hot to for mosquitoes to be around. And if you are moving over the open area, it's okay. But after the sunset, sometimes it gets crazy, because I thought when I photographed one very colorful picture of colors on the sky, I thought that drone is approaching, because I've heard the buzzing sound, and it was mosquitoes. And it was like, "Bzzz," and I thought it's a drone. So I was staying there, photograph, and then I noticed that each finger has its own mosquito trying to kill me. But they didn't so far, so I'm lucky so
Yeah.
far.
You're alive.
And the second drawback is it's really open area. If you are on a boat, you don't have nothing to cover with. Sometimes the boat has some roofs, attachable and detachable roofs, which are very good, but still the sun is very strong. So you have to keep yourself covered from the head to the legs. And sometimes it's very exhausting because you are active from 5 in the morning till 11 at night, and it's going here and there. And this is my very favorite pose to deal with this. And you can see another use of one 5400. It's a very nice pillow.
Yeah, I can see your one is green, and there was another one from your whoever customer
Yeah, this is
client.
part of my group, and he has covered just a hood. And after the trip, I think he covered the whole one. There is another drawback. As I mentioned, that there's a main road crossing the Pantanal. The animals sometimes are killed by the car, especially the fast-moving cars. Again, this is good for vultures, so no animal is going out to be unused, but sometimes it's very sad to see your target just laying down on the ground. Around the whole part of Pantanal, there are the wires. You can see the electricity wires here. And this was the reason of death of this wood stork. We were, again, we see it by our naked eyes, because the wood stork was approaching the place with electricity. Then suddenly some lights and sound happens, and he fell down, died. It's very, very sad. There is a very serious problem in Pantanal, and I really don't know if it's permanent or it's just, let's say, periodical, seasonal. I already told you that the Pantanal is heavy seasonal place. In winter, in our winter, there is a rain, then it's dry outs. It's very dry in October, September. It's really dry. It's normal. Just for info, this was the place where I photographed the bats. You can see this is the lake, and the bats were crisscrossing here and there are the caimans I try to focus on. So this is the lake, and I photographed these bats in, I think it was split of July to August, and this is how it looks like next year in August. So there's no water. In a Pantanal, it's a huge problem with the water, because it's getting drier and drier every year I return. So that's the reason why I try to go to Pantanal with some water collected, because the birds around are amazing. You have seen the kingfishers, everything. But if you drive to these places after they dry out, there's nothing, just the dirt road, no birds, no nothing, and you have to go straight to the rivers where something happens. But again, this is the river where we photographed the kingfishers hunting fishes, cormorants, and whatever. So this is how it looks like in July 1 year, and this is this year in June. So it's really crazy how it dries out. And some local people told me that there are some periods, maybe 6-8 years, and after it gets really rainy in the winter, it gets wet again, and it dries out those 6-8 years. It seems that now we are at the peak of the period, and I cannot pretend what happens next year, how many water will drop down. But the Pantanal is getting drier and drier. And of course, it has some other consequences, which are devastating fires. Every year in Pantanal, there are really devastating fires. And it's getting very hard to pretend what happens next year. So it's a global threat of every environment. The global is change, and global weather is change, and we cannot pretend what happens next year with the weather in the same area. So as I return there every year, I try to push my trips more towards to the end of wet season, let's say May or June, instead of going there in August where it's totally dry.
It would be really a pity. I mean, if this is caused by the global warming or something, I don't know. But that would be really sad if this biggest wetland actually dried out sometime in the future, right?
Yeah,
because of
but
the
it's
animal.
nature,
Sure.
and we live too short to understand if it's normal or it's not normal, how many cycles have been there before we born, and so on. But at the moment I return, this is the most visible change of one place I repeatedly visit.
Mhm.
I don't see these changes much in Costa Rica, let's say, on Ecuador, but I really notice it here. So it's weird. But still, even in this period, even if the river was almost dry out, we photographed hundreds of birds species.
Mhm.
It's not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that there are no birds at all. There are places with water and they are filled by life, but not so many as before. Maybe 8 years ago.
Okay.
So here's just a few words about my equipment I mentioned at the beginning. I try to count how many times I use each lenses I bring to Pantanal during the 4 trips, and over 10,000 shots. And I noticed that really the major lens is the 150-400 with over 75%. Here are those two lenses which are equal in terms of zoom length, but different aperture. And I use it as a second most often. And then I use the wide angles. Wide angle is sometimes I use it a lot, but out of all the pictures, I mostly use the 40, 150 to 150, 400. And this covers mostly 90% of my images from Pantanal.
Mhm. I personally, I would probably, obviously, because the reason is I'm not a professional photographer as you are, but personally, I would probably switch the 150 to 400 to 150 to 600, but sheerly because of the price, nothing else. Andreas, obviously, from the technical point of view, the
Mm.
150 400 which you are using is top of the notch. It's like the best one, but personally, I would go to 150 to 600 lens.
Yeah, the reason why I use the lenses with zoom is it's very practical on a boat, because on a boat there is with a fixed lens you have only one place where it's perfect. Until the place it's too far, there's a one moment where it's perfect, but then it's too close. So if you photograph the Jaguars, they are very small. You get closer, they are enough, and they are too big. So these combination of 40 till 400, let's say 500 with extender, or
Mhm.
600 with the black lens,
Mhm.
it's amazing. You have covered everything you want to wish. And if you just photograph some wide angle for yourself, it's good to photograph by 825 or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. So I didn't cover every single animal I photograph in Pantanal. Sometimes I'm going out at night. You can find some snakes. There are beautiful doves out there. There are parrots, snakes, toucans, everything. It's amazing place, and the great advantage of this place is that you are allowed to walk out of the car, which is not allowed in Africa, for example, for certain reasons, because there are lions and the other cats. So here it's very safe to walk around and follow the birds, follow the animals, and enjoy the diversity, which is really huge in Pantanal. It's like a live in a zoo among the animals. So this is the reason why I return every year. I try to. Uh, my portfolio from Pantanal is huge. I didn't publish all my pictures because it will be boring after a while. But yes, this is the Pantanal from my point of view, from point of wildlife photographer, and I hope you enjoy this lecture, this trip. And if you have any questions to this topic, I'm all yours. Now it's
Amazing images,
end.
Peter. I mean, really, just amazing stuff you just showed us. I know there are a few questions. Let me just go back to them. Okay, here's one. How you achieved so low camera level hanging out from boat? This was about the picture of the jaguar, you know, the portrait of the swimming jaguar in the water.
You mean how I reach the Jaguar from the low
You
level?
achieved so low camera level. You just probably hold it in your hand, right? Just right
This
above
one.
the water level or something like that.
Oh yeah, this picture was taken from the boat, and I use. Sorry, now I don't know if you see it or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, we see it now.
you see. I don't see it, so I need to believe you.
Yeah, we do.
So
We do. Picture.
okay, so on the boat there is a trick that I turn around the lens hood for a tripod, so I can hold it from the top. Then
Okay,
I attach my camera on Peak Design cuff. I guess this is the name of the ring on your arm, and I attach it on that, because if it suddenly drop down in the water, I will lost all my equipment. So I turn the collar around, so I hold it from above.
Yeah.
I go out of the boat with my body, and I hold it and get as low as possible, even almost touch the water. I try to avoid it, but it's this is the way how to make it possible. So that's the way.
So basically holding it like this, and you have the LCD turned up, right? Upwards. Like
Yes,
this.
yes, yes, yeah. Sorry, yeah. That's another move, important move, to open LCD, turn it, and try to get as low as possible. It's very important. If there are more people on a boat, it's very important to have something which holds your camera, because if they see that you have this idea, they will follow you. So sometimes it's you are photographing, you are deeply soaked in the photo, and then the boat is almost sink because everybody is going on the same side of the boat. So it's good to have something which holds your camera as well. Yeah, that's the way.
Nice. Okay, let me see. Do you have another question? Do you have a preference setting your custom settings to either hold or set? Oh yeah, right. Let me just explain shortly before I let you answer this, because you know that you can set up your custom settings, but then when you are shooting with the custom settings and you do some changes, then you can tell the camera to either keep these changes forever or reset it, which means that every single time you go to the custom setting, you will every single time get the originally set settings. I don't know if I explained properly, but maybe you can help me, Peter.
Yeah, that's. I cannot see the question, so I
Do you have
will.
a preference setting your custom settings to either hold or reset? If
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
have the custom settings
I
set
understand. Uh-huh.
to be kept or
Yes.
not.
When I'm building the setting, I
Mhm,
set the hold setup in a menu,
mhm,
because let's say I will set my setting C1 or whatever to Pro Capture.
mhm,
So I usually make my way is set my normal setting as a C1. So every button is assigned as I'm usually have. Then turn the dial to C1, and
mhm,
then I start to make it better.
mhm.
In this stage, I have set in my menu hold the setting, which means whatever I change, it saves automatically.
Okay.
After I do it, I try it, maybe let it be for 1 month. And if
Mhm,
I found this is the sweet spot, this is how I wish to make it as a basement, and I
mhm.
will time to time change some settings, but I would like to return as this basement, then I go to the menu and reset the setting of C1, and I know
Okay.
it's already find tuned up, and it's perfect. So at the beginning of creating of the profile, I have hold. After a while, when I feel this is the best starting point, because I always change my starting point setting, then I say, okay, I will let the reset, because I don't want to save all the deviances from the normal setting.
Cool, perfect. Thanks so much. So basically, you fine tune it, and then you make it
fine tune with hold and use it with reset.
Yeah. One more question: how do you manage 2 cameras at once? Because you are probably using 2 cameras, right, with different lenses. Holding one while shooting with the other. Do you use special straps?
Oh no. I usually have. There are 2 ways how I use 2 cameras together. The one is on a boat. So if I'm on the boat, usually I use my backpack laying down on the bottom of the boat, and my second camera on the backpack. This is very easy to hold it, photograph, take it back, photograph with the main camera, and so on. So this is how I switch it.
Okay.
And the second one is if I'm walking somewhere, I usually use the second camera as different point of view, which means that I have a strap with the main camera, which is usually with a 150-400, and the second camera should be something different. So usually it's a macro or wide angle or 4150. And in this case, I have a capture from Peak Design on my backpack, and the second camera is on my backpack ready for photograph. So I usually photograph with the main camera with a big lens, and then I said, okay, now it would be nice different way. So I left my main camera over my shoulder, hold the second camera, photograph, leap it to the capture again, and use the main camera. This is how I switch on walk situations.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter, for the answers. And there is yet another last question. Let's end it up with this question. If you want to ask more, then you will have to find Peter's webpage and contact him there. This was actually a question from the beginning when I was showing your PDF for the use of OM1 and OM1 Mark II in the wildlife genre. And Inan is asking, will we have an option to update version of the PDF in the future if we buy? So basically, if somebody buys your PDF and then there is an update with maybe some new features like from OM1 to OM1 Mark II, will you give them a free of charge update, or how do you do it?
Yeah, it very depends on how different the camera is. I already produced 2 PDFs. The first one was for EM1 Mark III and EM1X. And then occurs OM1, which was quite different in menu, in setting, and on options available. So I created brand new PDF with the new menu settings and everything. After OM1 Mark II was released, I just updated this PDF, and I marked these are the updated pages, which are different from the original PDF, and it was given for free to people because it was very similar in setting. There's maybe 10 more pages which are different from the original, but the original still works because OM1 Mark II is based on OM1. So this was for free. If there will be in the future any OM1 Mark III, and it will be equal to this and maybe 2 or 3 more features, so it will be for free probably again, because it's not the work from beginning. But if it will be different and it will change, let's say, dramatically my approach to photograph, I will maybe create brand new PDF, and this will be with maybe some discounts or maybe some offer for the others, but it will be brand new, so it will be for new money. But it's comparing to I think I placed the price so low that I don't think it's a big deal to buy it. If your equipment costs $10,000, these $25 are some minority. So I hope it helps. But I don't know if Thomas can say, but I don't expect any new camera coming in this level in the future, because this camera was released this year. So I don't expect that it will happen in very near future.
I mean, I wish I knew, but even if I knew, I couldn't say.
Yeah.
But the thing is that in general, in the Pro series of cameras, usually you expect the life cycle of these pro cameras from 2 to 3 years, right? This has been happening in the past. This is happening within all basically photographic brands. So it happens also with us. So basically this is OM1 Mark II, and it has been launched basically in January, February this year. So I don't expect to have, let's say, a replacement of OM1 Mark II now or anytime soon, right? Okay, I'm just looking at the poll. At the poll we have done. Let me just look at it, and it says that basically 90% of the people who voted out of 120 are using OM system. So majority of you are OM system and Olympus users. Thank you so much. 10% you are other brand users, which is great too. But if you want to learn, let's say, more about how our cameras work, how OM1 series brings amazing, let's say, even computational features into photography, how it makes life easier for photographers. We haven't actually been talking too much about, for example, the amazing artificial or artificial intelligence focusing when you are talking about shooting birds and mammals and so on. But we haven't mentioned that many times you are using this special focusing where actually the camera finds the animal or the bird by itself, and it keeps tracking it all the time, and you just basically concentrate on the composition, right, and then taking the pictures. So yeah, all these amazing features, this is something that is really important, and we are all having it in one single camera, and that is OM1 Mark II. And let me just very quickly remind you that on the 30th of this month, so almost at the end of this month, we are having this wildlife photography 10 tips to think outside of the box with Peter, and Peter will be talking about how you can improve your photography. Obviously, you don't need to be Olympus or OM system users, but you will find out how Peter is actually using this equipment to achieve these amazing, amazing images you have seen today, and you will be able to see on the 30th of October as well. I'm talking too much, Peter.
Me too. Yeah, same problem.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, sorry, but just very last question. I think that you have answered, but so you use a peak design capture clip. You are, right? You mentioned.
Yes. I use a lot of stuff from Peak Design because it's very functional, and it's working together. If you buy one piece, it's usually matched to the other piece of your gear. So yes, I use the capture from Peak Design to hold the second camera.
Okay. Peter, thank you so much. We are live 2 hours and 8 minutes. I think it's our record. I hope we have not been boring you that much because it has been really, really long. But personally, I am able to watch Peter's images, amazing shots, and his experience and talks for hours and hours. It's like watching Star Wars, 3 hours, 4 hours, and you don't really care, because I mean it is all good. So Peter, thank you so much again for tonight, for this presentation.
Thank you for your patience. I hope it will be some presentation you can go back to watch on the YouTube, because it's will stay on YouTube for forever, let's say. So I hope you find some inspirational images and approach, and I'll be looking forward to see you next time.
See you too. Bye bye, and have a good night.
Bye bye.